In the first video, we walked through Amanda Bynes' life. The timeline, the success, the moment everything seemed to unravel. But timelines only tell us what happened. They don't tell us why. Because when you zoom out and look at the details of Amanda Bynes' life and story, once you start looking at the environment she grew up in, the truth becomes glaringly obvious and quite uncomfortable. The same pattern appears again and again and again and again, which raises a deeper question. What kind of system produces this outcome so consistently? And to answer that, we have to widen the lens. Because Amanda Bynes' story isn't just personal, it's structural. Up until now, everything that we've talked about has sounded very personal. One person, one life, one tragic story. But Amanda Bynes' story doesn't make sense until you understand the systems she grew up in. Because those systems don't just shape outcomes, they predict them. Amanda didn't grow up famous in the abstract. She grew up inside what many researchers and critics would now call the child star industrial complex. It's not one company, it's not one villain, it's an entire ecosystem. Networks like Nickelodeon, production companies, PR firms, talent agencies, contracts signed by parents, and audiences who reward consistency. Together, they create a system that does one thing very, very well. It turns children into reliable products. Children are recruited young, before identity is formed, before boundaries are solid, before they have language for their discomfort. Their personality isn't just encouraged, it's refined. They're slotted into roles: the funny one, the cute one, the sassy one, the relatable one. And once a role works, it becomes non-negotiable. Because consistency protects the brand. Growth, confusion, anger, personality, those things are unpredictable. And unpredictability is a risk. So the system rewards obedience, agreeableness, emotional availability, being easy to work with. And Amanda, she excelled at all of it. She wasn't just talented. She was compliant, articulate, graceful, grateful, and endlessly professional. And from a corporate standpoint, that's a perfect asset. Cheaper than adult stars, easier to control through parents, less likely to challenge contracts, and critically replaceable if they stop cooperating. And there's another pressure running underneath all of this: financial dependency. No one ever sat Amanda down and said, "You are the breadwinner." They didn't need to. Children sense pressure through atmosphere. Adults who become anxious when they're unhappy. Schedules bending around them. Praise mixed with urgency. Fear when they resist or burn out. The message becomes implicit. A lot depends on you. This kind of responsibility doesn't need to be spoken to be internalized, especially by a conscientious child. And once that responsibility is internalized, saying no feels less like a boundary and more like a threat. Then there's chronic surveillance. Amanda has spoken openly about feeling uncomfortable, knowing that all her awkward childhood moments were always available for rewatch to millions of people across the globe forever. And that awareness changes how you move. When you grow up knowing that everything is recorded, mistakes are permanent, your past selves never disappear, you don't experiment freely. You self-monitor. You learn to manage perception instead of discovering identity. And when you combine that with constant praise, you're adorable. Stay this way. We love this version of you. Something confusing happens psychologically. Praise and critique start doing the same thing. They both say that your body and personality, it belongs to us. There's also the workplace environment itself. During the years that Amanda worked at Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider was one of the most powerful figures on set. Reporting and documentaries like Quiet on Set have revealed and described fear-based work environments, blurred professional boundaries, jokes involving minors, and environments where discomfort was normalized.
I feel like the creator has two distinct sides. One is generous and over-the-top complimentary. The creator knows how to make someone feel important. The other side is mean-spirited, controlling, and terrifying. The creator can tear you down and humiliate you. I've seen him do this when he fired a 6-year-old on the spot for messing up a few lines on a rehearsal day. Sloppy, careless, R-slur, and spineless. The creator knows how to make someone feel worthless. I feel that I always have to be on guard around him, catering to him emotionally. I feel similarly around the creator as I feel around my mom. On edge, desperate to please, terrified of stepping out of line. Put both of them together in the same room and I'm overwhelmed.
And it's super important to be precise here. There are no criminal convictions involving Amanda and Dan Schneider. There is no confirmed allegation from her accusing Dan Schneider of anything. But psychological pressure doesn't require criminality to be damaging. In environments like this, agreeable children are especially vulnerable because discomfort can be reframed as humor and boundaries can be softened into just jokes. The most damaging part of all of this is that it isn't just one incident. It's arrested development by design. Children in these systems are infantilized socially, while at the same time being adultified professionally. They are expected to perform adult labor with childlike compliance. So they learn very early, I'm valuable when I'm small, entertaining, and agreeable. That belief doesn't disappear when the work stops. It fractures. And when that structure that held everything together disappears, when the show ends, the roles dry up, the attention fades, there's nothing underneath it. There's no internal compass, no private sense of self, no rehearsal for that autonomy, for that freedom, for that independence. That's not freedom, that's free fall. They train and manage and contain these kids and then let them out and roam free in the wild and say, well, thanks for all the work you did for us. Be free now. Go and live your life and enjoy your minions.
That's not necessary.
And that is why Amanda Bynes' story isn't rare. Once you understand the system that Amanda Bynes was built in, raised in, the later behavior stops looking random and starts to look adaptive, almost inevitable. Because human beings don't just break, especially children. They adapt, they adjust. And Amanda Bynes' life had followed a very particular structure for the last 2 decades. From 7 years old. Work, press, praise, awards, repeat. Her nervous system learned only one rhythm. From age 7 to her early 20s, her nervous system only learned one rhythm. Produce, be affirmed, be safe. She was praised for being articulate, polite, funny on demand, emotionally available, endlessly agreeable. And that kind of reinforcement teaches the child something quietly but powerfully. My value lives in other people's reactions to me. Over time, her sense of self wasn't built internally, and an internal sense of self is what you need to survive in this world, to thrive in this world. She didn't have that. Instead, her self-worth was externalized. It was mirrored back to her. Critics said she was charming, so she leaned into charm. Audiences laughed, so she exaggerated her humor. Talk shows framed her as bubbly, so she stayed bubbly. Her father was once quoted to describe her as a shapeshifter. And that wasn't an insult. It was a survival skill. And as Amanda grew older, the feedback changed. She was no longer just talented, she was commented on. Her face, her body, her cheeks, her weight. Praise and critique blurred together because both were constant and external. She later spoke about how seeing herself as a man in She's the Man triggered a deep discomfort and body dysmorphia. While Lindsay Lohan got to be sexy and young and cool, she's there wearing a muscle suit and sideburns and pretending to be a boy for most of the movie. Sorry, it just pisses me off. Because when your body becomes a prop before it becomes yours, self-perception fractures. And when self-perception fractures, people often reach for control. And for Amanda, control showed up in substances. She admitted to faking ADHD symptoms so she could be prescribed Adderall. She would chew the pills to intensify the effect, curbing her diet and allowing her to lose weight and focus. It was not to party, it was to focus, to regulate, to feel in control. She also spoke about heavy use, smoking throughout her career, but incessantly once retiring. I said it in my first video as a little note, but marijuana is a psychoactive drug. If you are not in a good headspace, it can send you into psychosis. People take smoking pot as something very, very light, but if you are chronically depressed and isolated, it can mash up your entire head, especially if you're abusing it. This wasn't chaos. Amanda Bynes was self-medicating. This is the section that most people think they already know. The headlines, the clips, the punchlines. But when you place this moment back inside the timeline, it stops looking like spectacle and starts to look like someone reaching their breaking point. After Amanda stepped away from acting, her life lost the structure it had always relied on. The routines were gone. The feedback was gone. And what filled that space wasn't peace. It was isolation. She would later go on to describe her days spent abusing Adderall and smoking relentlessly, alone in dark hotel rooms, caught in really negative and dark thoughts about the way that she looked and the things that had happened in her life. And that combination of the drugs and the isolation, that combination can destabilize perception, amplify anxiety, and fragment thought. And slowly but surely, her inner world began leaking outward. The first thing the public didn't notice was pain. It was oddness, tweets that felt very unfiltered, language that shocked people, and drastic shifts in her appearance. But instead of asking why, the culture laughed. Late night jokes, tabloid headlines, meme culture. Everyone thought it was so fucking funny that this woman was going through a hard time and struggling, clearly losing a grip on her mental health, on her sanity. Everyone thought it was so funny, bro. Her pain became entertainment. There's a very strange assumption that I've recognized baked into when we tell stories like this, like when I see other YouTubers. A lot of people are still very saddened and concerned because obviously the culture has shifted now. A lot of people are sad, especially once we know what that girl went through and how drastically she's changed. She kind of just changed like that for absolutely no reason, right? A lot of people believe that recovery should be loud, that it should look triumphant, that they should look better off than when they first started. But that actually isn't what normal healing usually looks like, especially for someone who has spent their entire life being watched. After the worst years passed, Amanda Bynes didn't return to the spotlight. She didn't return with a redemption arc. There was no glossy rebrand. Instead, there was distance, silence, quietness, and a flat expression. Sobriety, mental health treatment, education. Amanda Bynes enrolled at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising and eventually graduated. Congratulations to Amanda Bynes. But there were no cameras, there was no applause, there was no grand announcement. Just her quiet progress. And that's actually where public discomfort begins. Because when someone has spent years performing exaggerated emotion, silence feels suspicious to an audience that is trained to expect spectacle. People say, she's not the same anymore. They broke her. They ruined her. But that reaction actually reveals something very interesting about the way that we view personality and persona. For most of Amanda's life, she has been performing. Not just in her characters, but every single day, she was performing emotionally. Big expressions, exaggerated reactions, high energy, constant charm. That kind of performance isn't just entertainment, it's a form of masking. When someone grows up learning that their value comes from being expressive, entertaining, and emotionally available on demand, their face becomes a part of that performance. Their reactions become a part of that role. So when the performance stops, everyone assumes that something is still wrong. But what if nothing is wrong? What if what people are seeing now isn't emptiness, but the absence of performance? After decades of exaggerating emotion for cameras, audiences, interviewers, a calmer expression might simply be what she looks like when she's not performing for anyone. The girl's probably fucking tired. She doesn't want to pretend anymore. She had to pretend and perform and act her whole life, on and off camera. I doubt she fucking wants to do it anymore. After everything that it cost her, I doubt she wants to do it anymore. And that possibility is uncomfortable for audiences because it forces us to confront something subtle. The version of Amanda Bynes that everybody, that people, that audiences, fans say that they miss may have been the version of Amanda that existed for everyone else. But I don't think it was the version that existed for her. Amanda's story stops looking like a personal tragedy when you zoom out, because the same arc appears again and again with child stars. Early success under strict control, public praise for being agreeable and professional, then complete instability and mental fracture once that structure disappears. That pattern isn't random, it's systemic. Child star industrial complex is really good at creating young performers, but it is far less equipped to support the adults that these children become. And that raises a broader question. If a system consistently produces the same outcome. Is the outcome really surprising? Amanda Bynes didn't lose herself to fame. She was shaped by a system that never prepared or planned for her adulthood. And once you see that clearly, the question shifts again. Instead of asking what happened to Amanda Bynes, we might start asking something else. Why do we keep building systems where children have to disappear from the spotlight just to recover? Thank you so much for watching. It is much appreciated. If you didn't check out part 1 and you're just now watching part 2, it's a bit late for me to say so, but you should probably go watch part 1. Thank you again, and please like and subscribe for more.